Welcome, everybody, to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Jesse Weber. Defense attorneys for convicted killer Alec Murdaugh have officially indicated they are filing an appeal. Friday marks 1 week since a jury found Murdaugh guilty of murdering his wife Maggie and son Paul on their country estate in South Carolina. Murdaugh, though, continues to profess his innocence. Prosecutors claim that Murdaugh killed them to distract from millions of dollars in financial crimes coming to light. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours before ultimately declaring him guilty. After the verdict and sentence of 2 consecutive life terms that were handed down, Murdaugh's legal team vowed to appeal, saying that the evidence and testimony about the money that Murdaugh stole from his law firm and clients was too prejudicial. They believe that Judge Clifton Newman made a mistake in allowing it in. On Thursday, Murdaugh's attorneys filed a notice of appeal to start the appeals process, and for now, Murdaugh is going to remain incarcerated. So let's break this down. I'm joined once again by Brian Buckmeyer, Terry Austin. Brian, what is a notice of appeal, and what comes after a notice of appeal?
Jesse, it's literally that. It's a bare bone motion, simply just saying, hey, I am representing, in this case, Alec Murdaugh, and we're going to appeal. It has to happen 30 days after the judgment. There are no real arguments needed in it. There's this thing called the mailbox rule. Depending on when you put in the mailbox and when they receive it, that 30 days can kind of elapse. But you're supposed to send it to the trial court, the appellate court, and of course, opposing counsel, so that you know, so that they know this appeal is coming. The next steps: get the transcripts. You want to get each and every word that was said in that trial court so you can make the appropriate arguments, and those arguments are in your briefs, which you filed, not the briefs that you're probably used to, but briefs like motions where you're arguing what the appellate issues is.
Okay, so Terry, Brian clearly explained the process. Let's talk about the specific grounds for an appeal. Do you think Murdaugh has any good grounds or chances for success?
Well, I think the one you mentioned, the fact that the judge let in all of the financial crimes evidence, that was a big issue. One of the things Judge Newman did is he didn't do any sort of preemptory decisions. He wanted to wait until something was said during the trial, and that's exactly what happened. The defense opened the door there when they asked a question about motive, and that's how we got to the financial crimes. Now, on appeal, I do think there is an argument that it should not have gotten in, particularly the amount that got in. But I like the way Judge Newman did his analysis in terms of why it should go in. It does have to do with motive. It does have to do with intent. So 50-50, we'll see what happens, but it's a good argument. Well,
putting the appeal to the side for a second, there is a lot more to the Murdaugh saga. In fact, there is another death tied to the Murdaugh family, and that is of their housekeeper and nanny, Gloria Satterfield. She died in 2018 after a fall on the Murdaugh's property. Paul and Maggie were the only people home when that happened. They told 911 that the dogs knocked her down the front porch steps. Satterfield later died at the hospital, and an autopsy was never performed, so investigators actually planned to exhume her body. During Alec Murdaugh's trial, it was confirmed that he agreed to file a lawsuit against himself to get insurance money for Satterfield's 2 sons. The only problem is they never saw a dime. Murdaugh kept millions of dollars from a payout, all for himself. Now, I should tell you, News Nation spoke with Satterfield's son, Tony, as well as Tony's attorney, Eric Bland, earlier this week, and Tony says he doesn't think that there was foul play.
Why do we believe that your mother's body may need to be exhumed?
If I'm aware, or if I'm saying it correctly, see if there was any foul play or anything.
Do you believe there may have been?
No, I do not.
But you just want to be sure?
Yeah.
In terms of what it means for the Satterfield family, what is the deepest basis of suspicion that would warrant something like exhuming a body, Counselor?
Well, I think it's because Alex, everything around Alex is danger, lies, deception. We know that he capitalized on Gloria's death financially and used it as an opportunity to enrich himself at the expense of the boys who were exploited in this process. The police have some doubts about Alex's story. He told an insurance adjuster exactly what he thought happened, which was that the dogs pushed Gloria down the stairs. It's going to be difficult when they exhume her body, Chris, to really determine were those done by human hands or by the fall. That she flipped twice, obviously. I've been to the Mizell stairs. And so she had significant closed head injury and open head injury with 12 broken ribs.
All right, we'll wait for details on that. The second day of verdict watch has officially wrapped in a Broward County, Florida courtroom with no decision. 3 men are on trial for the murder of rising rap hip-hop artist XXXTentacion. The victim's real name was Jose Onfroy. In 2018, he was robbed and shot to death while leaving a motorcycle dealership. Prosecutors presented a really lengthy case, pointing the finger at Michael Boatwright as the trigger man, Trayvon Newsom as the second gunman, and Dedrick Williams as the ringleader and getaway driver. Now, there was a star witness, the co-defendant, Robert Allen, who pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and robbery charges with a possibly reduced sentence up for grabs. He testified against his alleged accomplices while also detailing his role in the crime. There was only one defense team that presented a case here. Michael Boatwright's attorney, Joseph Kemock, called a Broward County sergeant and detective to poke holes in the investigation. The jury is going to continue their deliberations on Monday morning, so we're going to make sure to bring you updates when a verdict is officially reached. And we're also awaiting sentencing for convicted killer Paul Flores. The California man faces up to life in prison for the murder of college student Kristen Smart nearly 30 years ago. The 19-year-old vanished in 1996 while attending California Polytechnic State University. She was officially declared dead in 2002, and the case went cold until 2021 when investigators used ground-penetrating radar on Flores' property to uncover items that were connected to the case. Prosecutors said that Flores was the last person to see Smart live and either raped her or tried to do so before killing her in his dorm room. They also argued that his father helped hide Smart's body in multiple locations. In October, Flores was convicted of Smart's murder while his father was acquitted of being an accessory to the crime. After 26 years, Smart's body has never been found. All right, it's time to clear up some confusion right now in the case against Alec Baldwin and the prop gun that he was using during a film shoot that had a live round in it, killing a cinematographer. During a status conference on Thursday, Baldwin's lawyer told the court that the firearm was destroyed by the state. But just a few hours later, a spokeswoman for the New Mexico District Attorney handling the case released a statement, and she clarified that the gun itself hadn't been destroyed. However, according to the FBI's firearms testing report, damage was done to the internal pieces of the gun during the testing process. Baldwin has pleaded not guilty to involuntary manslaughter charges. He says the Colt .45 prop gun was never supposed to have live rounds in it. The gun went off while Baldwin was practicing a scene, killing Helena Hutchins and also injuring the movie's director. The film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, has also charged. The judge set a date of May 3rd for the preliminary hearing. I had a chance to speak with Randy Zellin, an adjunct professor at Cornell Law, about what the revelations about the gun could mean for the case.
Well, the defense is entitled to test that weapon to see whether, in fact, it was operable, and the government has the burden of demonstrating that the weapon was operable at the time that it was fired. So if the gun is in pieces or there are pieces missing, the government is screwed every single moment, every single thing, every single advantage that the defense can possibly obtain, every disadvantage it can foist upon the prosecution. He's going to make sure that they rue the day they prosecuted his client. This case belongs in a civil court. It was a tragic accident. Let them wipe him out financially, but criminally, he does not belong to be in the caption of a criminal case.
You can never doubt Randy's opinions. He always lays it on the table. So Terry, defense, they're saying the gun might have been destroyed or, can't be used. I think that signals part of their defense strategy, no?
I think the professor was absolutely right. It does signal what they're going to try to prove in court, or rather disprove as far as the prosecution is concerned. They are going to show there's reasonable doubt here that gun was destroyed, quote unquote, and obviously they're claiming in New Mexico that it wasn't destroyed. But if in fact there was any damage at all to the internal workings of the gun, how is it that the prosecution is going to prove their case? So the defense is definitely going to use this as a strategy. They're claiming that it's destroyed. And you remember Alec Baldwin was on a show and he was interviewed and he said he didn't even pull the trigger. So we might hear something like that as well during the trial, that he didn't pull it and the gun itself was damaged, and there's no way the prosecution can prove otherwise.
Well, Brian, neither the judge nor the prosecution responded when the defense mentioned the destroyed gun. What's the court ultimately going to do when they have to decide this issue?
Well, for Nothing, really. And I'm sorry to be the contrarian. I have to disagree with Terry and even the professor. Think of it this way. Remember the Alec Murdaugh case when the prosecution, quote unquote, destroyed the shirt through the blood spatter testing and the defense wasn't able to test it? Yeah, that was a good argument, but was it really the landslide argument that the defense had? No, the defense is going to make the argument, like Terry said. The judge is going to say, hey, nothing I can really do. Maybe go test a similar gun and make those arguments, but you can't test the actual gun. Yes, they get maybe a negative inference. Yeah, they maybe get an argument. On the paper, big win for the defense. But in actual practice, it's not really much.
All right, we'll see. I don't know. This is the weapon. This is the key weapon, though. We'll see which way this goes. I can't tell.